as we continue to work on this, we're going to apply some color to the carpet. We've already added some shadows and shading, but now I'm going to go in with some French grays, and we'll start with a French gray 40, and we'll keep it tight under the bed. So we already have some shading with our cool gray marker. Now we're going to go in with the French gray, warm it up a little bit. Now remember, with marker, if you go over an area and then immediately go over it again, you could sort of blend the color out a little bit. You will see a little bit of those marker strokes. And I usually recommend trying to go with the direction of the vanishing point. Okay, I want to use a little different marker on this side. I want to leave a little variation. So I'm going to go with a lighter French gray. And to create the lighter French gray, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my own color. So I'm going to use a clear plastic plate, and you can use a little white plastic plate, a styrofoam plate. I'm going to apply a little bit of French gray. That was a French gray 40. And then I'm going to take a colorless blender, pick up my French gray 40, and then apply it within this room. Now the clear blender will not take a marker that's already on the page. It will not take the pigment, pick it up, and move it. But you can grab pigment. Get a little bit of brown on there. Take a little bit of that brown and throw in the shadow area. But it's a great way to get a little hint of a color in an area. Now again, as we know with marker, as this dries, this will lighten just slightly. Alright, now what I'm going to do is we're going to work on this little wood cabinet. And again, we have a couple different shades of wood in here, so I'm going to start, I think I want to work with the darker woods. Again, it's typically beneficial if you have a solid plan when you start working. Now I am going to treat this like I do with any other illustration. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my gray markers. So let's go ahead and put some gray. And since this is round, we want to give the illusion that there's a little bit of a shading effect coming around to create this curved area on this piece. And there is a little bit of a lip up here at the top, so I'm actually just going to take a little bit of a line around the top as well, and then pull it down just slightly. Now I'm going to take another cool gray 50, and come over on this side, just give a few little strokes down. Don't want to completely cover anything up. And then on the base, give a little bit of line work. You know, when you have a little bit of a molding like that, give a little bit of a gray line work. I'm going to go back now with a dark 90 gray and try to highlight or try to add some darker shadow under a few of those areas. And now what I could do is go in with some brown. I'll be using dark brown. I want to apply it in layers, so again, I'm going to take my plastic plate, add some dark brown. I'm going to grab, instead of a colorless blender this time, I'm going to grab a cool gray 10. And you have to use the broad tips for these. I'm going to grab a cool gray 10 because I want a little bit more shaded effect. So now I'm going to apply some of my color. Pick it up off your plate. And the first couple strokes will be darker, and then it'll gradually get lighter. So do this process again. And remember, you can mix any color on a palette and then pull it off with a very light gray. And again, those initial strokes will come off almost as dark as the original color, and then the subsequent strokes will come off a bit lighter. Alright, so now I'm going to go in with just the brown. Do a few strokes down because I want to see the actual color. And then do the base. Alright, so now we have a wood tone with a little bit of reflected light on this side table. Now, once it has begun to dry, it's very important also, after you use a marker, make sure you scrub it on a scrap piece of paper to clean off the tip, so that next time you won't be picking up the same color off your palette. Now that it's dried a little bit, I'm going to go in with a white pencil, and then I have my ratty old triangle that I use for marker and pencil renderings. I'm going to go in and just add a few little streaks of white highlight, and then the same thing on the base, a few little streaks of white highlight. Okay, and we'll call that table pretty much complete. I do want to put a little bit of blue in here for the glass. So I'm just going to grab a blue marker with a fine tip, and I rarely use the fine tips, but when you want to get along a sharp edge, sometimes you have to. And I don't want to put too much in there. And now I want to take a little bit, I'm just going to take my white pencil, kind of scrub along there. There we go. Now we've got kind of a nice blue edge to the piece of glass.